Seems like Ford is leading this truck market crash and buyers are going broke. They can't afford these high dollar, high margin pickup trucks. Well, good morning, my savory seeds of sunshine. Today we're going to answer a few of your questions that have been building up and you've asked for a while, and I'm going to target those. So here, let's get to the first one here. We'll take a look here. One question is Garcia, who's asking a 2024 Ford F-150 Raptor with a $15,000 markup? 108 grand, who are buying these? Well, the truth of that is, Garcia, not too many people are actually buying these high-priced trucks. Now, if you've seen over on other channels, and we see Car Questions Answered has actually had a very similar conversation about where they address the situation of fleet vehicles. And now while Ford is on the forefront and always advertised as being, the primary selling or the best selling pickup truck in North America, the fact remains is how much of those numbers are actually skewed? How many people are spending this kind of money, $108,000, $120,000? And even in Canadian funds, and I showed you a Shelby F-150 there previously where potentially somebody could spend as much as $200,000 on an F-150 that's all hopped up with a whole bunch of horsepowers. But anyway, the question is, who's buying these trucks? The reality is very, very few, if none. I mean, just look around the car lots. I mean, really, the big thing is look around the streets. You don't see a lot of new trucks, and the ones that you do are typically, middle of the range F-150 Lariats, XLTs, more garden variety, middle of the road. Raptors, you see the odd one. You see the odd premium Dodge Ram as well. But generally speaking, those are rare. Those are those one-offs where somebody really needs to have it. But honestly, there's not that many people buying those types of trucks, if we're being quite honest. And when we look at the numbers, we're seeing numbers at Ford saying, hey, we're selling all these trucks. We're leading truck manufacturer in terms of sales. Well, did you know that GM and Chevy collectively sold more trucks than Ford last month or last quarter? And some people say, well, yeah, Chevy is one brand, GMC is another brand, but it's still collectively GM full-size trucks, and quite honestly, it's the same vehicle with a different grille on it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether it's GM or Ford leading truck sales. What does matter is most of those sales aren't coming from retail buyers like you and I, because that's where Ford's really targeting. They're looking for the big margin that they can suck out of the system on retail sales. While they don't hit the big numbers, every transaction they're hoping to maximize the profit. And so how do they do that? They don't do it by selling low dollar garden variety pickup trucks that are selling for $30,000 or $35,000. There's not a lot of margin in those vehicles. There's a lot more margin in the premium vehicles, the Raptors, or definitely the upscale vehicles of every manufacturer. GMC's got them, Ram's got them, as well as Ford. But Ford seems to be leading the charge because they know that people are looking and craving for that low-cost vehicle. They know that. That's what the market is screaming for, and yet they're not bringing it on. Customers want a lot more of these, the Rangers or even the Mavericks, even more specifically, because the Mavericks, although they're a baby truck, a lot of people are just looking for something like that. That isn't necessarily going to haul your fifth wheel, but it has the capability of hauling do a little gardening duties, a versatility of a pickup truck, and generally just have a low-cost vehicle on their fleet. But that's the thing. These truck manufacturers like Ford are not selling those low-cost vehicles in mass abundance. They could, but when you look at the car lots, they're filled up with F-150s. F-250s, not as much, but the F-150 is the best-selling pickup truck in North America. They're trying to push that market, and they keep trying to promote that branding. But less and less and less people every single month have the money, and we're seeing the decline in terms of the overall market share. Ford sales have been down, and while they brag to be the best-selling truck, the sales are going down. Their ICE sales are going down. We're looking at the Lightning, definitely have tanked. They've had to slice production. They've had to actually put some of their electrification on hold, and they're not advancing that market space. As well as the Mustang Mach-E is another tough seller because it's an EV, and a lot of people are not getting fully on board with these electric vehicles. We've all seen the odd Lightning driving around. We've all seen the odd Mustang Mach-E driving around, but there's not that many, and very few people are getting on board. And so the bottom line is people are craving those lower cost vehicles, but Ford is denying that because there's not a lot of Mavericks. If they wanted to satisfy what the market is looking for, they would pump up the production of the Mavericks, because that's the low dollar vehicle with small margins. They don't want to. They want to keep pushing the high dollar, high volume vehicles. Again, the premium F-150s, the premium GMCs, the premium Rams. They're all pushing their premium products like they did 3 or 2 years ago when people were spending. But people aren't spending like they were 2 years ago. We don't have the government handouts anymore. And so generally what we're seeing now is Ford's market is, they're definitely going to feel the burn because they're in sheer denial. While they keep pushing their premium trucks, people aren't buying them, or the reduction. So again, at the end of the day, Ford is literally holding back, in my opinion. They could be selling a lot more Mavericks to people that actually have the money for that. But instead, they're saying, no, we're just going to keep that. We're going to keep that a thin, slow flow of Mavericks to the marketplace. A lot of them are going to fleets, and very few of them are actually available for the retail customers. So at the end of the day, who's buying those Raptors and those premium Rams and premium GMCs? Not many people. There's the odd one floating around out there. But for that kind of money, I'll tell you for free, it won't be me. Another quick one. Brian asked a question. Is there still snow there? Why is there still snow? Well, that's odd enough. And here I'm looking at the calendar, and it's April 30th, and we've got snow again today. So it's up and down. We've had some great weather here, but when you're talking about the prairies in Canada, anything goes. We've had snow in virtually every month of the year. And so that's the beauty of me sharing this whole dynamic. When I'm out in the field and pounding the pavement, showing you some of these vehicles, you could get snow, sun, blizzard, rain. You see it all, and we get it all any time of the year. So thanks, Brian. So Wilfred asks a question, are there any Dodge Rams worth owning? And how about any half tons? Well, yeah, Rams definitely are worth owning. However, under the caveat, we have to keep being diligent with looking for best values, best bang for buck. We know we're starting to see some incentives. The incentives aren't always there. And $2,500 off of a truck that costs $65,000, $70,000 isn't much of an incentive. But I do believe we're starting to see prices drop. Now, specifically, not just to the pricing, since it sounds like you're a little bit more looking for the Rams specifically, I do believe Rams are worth buying. I personally wouldn't go for the base Ram because it has the V6 4x4. It's just a little bit underpowered. And quite frankly, you won't have the torque. And honestly, I've talked to many people and driven them myself and found once you start towing anything with it, it's constantly hunting for gears. It's not necessarily the right configuration. It's a very light duty truck, and I wouldn't really go with a V6. I would definitely step up to the V8 Ram. Now, I do believe the V8 Ram is the way to go. Unfortunately, what we are doing is seeing this transition to next year. And 2025 promises to have the Hurricane, and we're replacing the Hemi V8 with a twin turbo straight 6-cylinder engine. Now, the top trim has 540 horsepower, and that does promise to be a significant performer. But, duly noted, Ford definitely proved out the turbo game. However, we know with Ram, Stellantis, and a lot of those products aren't necessarily built with the highest level of R&D. In my personal experience and my personal opinion, I never believe in buying the first 2 or 3 years of a major overhaul like that. And this is a significant drivetrain change. So it's either you get one of the new old stock versions with a V8 that you know kind of what to expect, and you make sure that you're well researched depending on the drivetrain you're actually choosing. And I do believe some Rams could be worth buying. I think they've got one of the nicest interiors right now of all of the big players. They have all the big screens, and I love the design theme that they put on the interior. The exterior is a little ho-hum. It's a little like every other pickup truck. It's honestly, sometimes if it weren't for the grille or the specific taillights, you almost can't tell the difference between a GMC and a Ram. But honestly, the bottom line is, yes, Rams could be worth buying, but make sure you do your homework. Don't be paying over sticker. And actually, I'd be not only not doing that, I would definitely be seeking out some big incentives. Again, remember the old garden variety rule, 20% down minimum, maximum 4 years of lending time, and 10% of your net or your gross income should not be exceeded with the monthly payment of that vehicle. So just if you can fit in that bubble of that criteria, find a nice Ram with a V8 engine, you might find yourself a good deal. Remember, there's lots of vehicles on the lot if you can get that good deal from any of these particular vendors. So yes, there are some great Rams. I would be looking at one of the new old stocks. Again, If you want to get the Turbo 6, you might want to wait a few years. With that said, if you do want to move into the latest and greatest, and you do feel like you want the latest with the Hurricane, I would probably at least wait a year or two. At least wait a year. And then we also have to see, we haven't really had the well-defined MSRPs carved out yet. We're hearing about $4,000 to $10,000 price reductions as we transition to the next generation. So definitely we're going to see some price alterations here, but time will tell on how good of a deal that really is. And William asked a question, my 2017 Ram has an unlimited warranty. I don't own any debt on it. It's paid for and it drives just fine. Why get into debt when I'm happy with what I already have? And I couldn't agree more there, William, and I continually emphasize that fact. Sometimes people are in a market. You know, they need that next truck. Maybe theirs is finally worn out, it's rusted, rotted out. You know, too much is gone. You know, it's definitely just time to move it on. It's ready for the scrapyard. And there will be that time when a lot of these vehicles get there. But unfortunately, a lot of people tend to just see the next shiny thing and they want that next vehicle. And they're willing to spend almost anything. And they'll justify it with phrases like, oh, I work hard, I deserve it. Absolutely, we all do. But think about this. You work hard now. Here's a little adage I used to hear and kind of I live by. You work hard, seriously hard, somewhere in your life. You're either going to do it young, so you bust your chops when you're young, you work hard, do all those things, generate the revenue and savings so that you have an easier life later on. Or you coast and you buy all those goodies and you don't save and you don't do all the right financial decisions early in life, then you find yourself later in life scrambling, living from check to check, and you don't want to do that when you're in your 50s and 60s. So I like to live by that. And I also like to live by the fact that, hey, we all like nice things. Me no different. And I'll probably buy something new at some point as well. But it's got to be the right time. You definitely should be in the right, financial state for it. And honestly, what's wrong with driving the old jalopies? I'll be the first to admit, I've got a 2003 Ram, and a lot of you have been watching, OGs, been watching the channel, know that I've got an 03 Ram with the 1500. It's got the 4.7. It's not the best engine. It's certainly got a little bit of bubbles here and there, a little bit of tiny rust starting up, but you know what? It still runs pretty good, starts every time, and it does everything I need a truck to do. So why not continue driving what you've got? See, I see a lot of people, they'll drive, they'll buy, they'll drive it, maybe put 100,000 miles on it, then want to trade up for the next truck after warranty's out 3 or 4 years in, and they'll be looking for the next truck. You're never really out of debt, and that's the thing, and that's okay. Like I said, it's nice to have nice things, and we only live for so long, so why not have some of those nice things? But the other question is, the other thoughts are, why not make it easier for yourself financially? And when it's time, absolutely, pull the trigger, buy that truck. But if you can continually delay the inevitable and keep, maintaining, put new tires, new brakes on that truck, sure, it gets a little loose, a little rattly, maybe burns a little oil after a while. Who cares? It keeps running, keep driving her. That's the way I see it. And that's what I continue to do with my 03 Ram. And I'm seeing more and more people making that decision of continue driving what they've got, especially for a daily commuter, a vehicle that's just to get to work and back, to get the kids to school. I mean, sure, maybe you have your toy in the back. Maybe you like to have a fancy boat. Maybe you like your quads, your motorcycles. Maybe you have that sports car for Sunday night. And that's okay. But for the daily grind that's going to be subjected to harsh elements, door dings at the mall, the kids in and out, the French fries down the seats, that's okay. What's wrong with having something that's a little harder duty? So anyway, that's all I'm saying is, great question, William. There's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping something. If you like it, it runs good, it doesn't cost you a lot of money, keep driving it. That's what I say. So Tony is asking the question, what would you buy, the Lexus LX or the Grand Wagoneer? Same price range, why would you even buy the Jeep? Well, let's talk about that. I mean, we know that both manufacturers have been making some big changes. Lexus, the LX, now they've got a twin turbo V6. They went foregone with the V8 engine. That went bye-bye. And we know that some of the V8 engines in the Lexus and Toyota lineups were absolutely bulletproof. Now, we have heard of some issues in the Toyota Tundras, as well as some of these new Lexus vehicles that are rocking this new twin turbo V6. There have been some engine failures. There's been some wastegate problems. And I think there's generally been some teething issues throughout. But generally, we know for a fact that the high probability of failure is much more significant when you buy a Jeep. And quite frankly, there's no way on this earth could I even put a Grand Wagoneer to a Lexus LX and actually feel good about the purchase of going with the Jeep. Now, a Jeep is fine. You like the brand, you like the style, you like the vehicle. That's different strokes for different folks. But when you're investing, and I say investing because it's basically putting money into something of that magnitude, we're talking 130,000 plus Canadian dollars. I can't imagine putting it into a place that you know will lose half of its value in 5 years. And on top of that, you know there will be recalls, and you know you will have maintenance issues, and you know reliability will be a problem. Why would you go there? I mean, Lexus is almost too easy. It's almost the easy button. And while they're not perfect, they have their own nuances. And like I said, this new twin-turbo V6 will certainly tell the tale. We have been seeing some issues. I believe as a betting person, if you're going to go with something, you're going to spend your hard-earned dollars, and you want to keep a little more value retention in it, although they do depreciate. The larger Lexus vehicles also take a bit of a hit. But it's going to be a more reliable vehicle historically. But like anything, I wouldn't buy the first model year of a Lexus either. Like the Lexus LX, even with that new V6, I wouldn't bother. Maybe give it a couple years, but that goes for either brand. Give them a couple years to settle in and then figure out what you want to do. But honestly, 100% without a doubt, similar price tag, I would go with the Lexus LX. I can't imagine going with the Wagoneer, Grand Wagoneer over a Lexus LX. Sorry, just my thoughts. And my F3T asked the question, what kind of camera are you using? Clearly, a lot of people have commented on this. The camera provides great quality, has a great image stabilization, and even more importantly, it actually has a great way of sort of auto-focusing. It's one of the best autofocus systems, so it's one of the best vlog cameras that money can buy. And it's a Sony ZV-1. If you're asking, I'm rocking the Sony ZV-1 camera. It's a great unit. Got it a couple years ago and still trying to figure out all the features. It's a great automatic camera, easy to use, point and shoot, lots of versatility. So since you're wondering, there it is. And Dogleg asked the question, could you imagine paying $2,000 a month for a GM product? Honestly, I couldn't. And you saw a video a little while back I featured where there was this vlogger, YouTuber. Actually, they were from TikTok, and they were spending a collective total of over $3,000 a month. They had a Tahoe, a GM, obviously, and they had another vehicle too. They had two vehicles, big payments, and they were paying, I think, $1,600, $1,700 a month for just the Yukon itself. And people are stuck paying that kind of money. If that's how you get into this conundrum, is buying with too little down. The banks are willing to throw all kinds of money your way, and people are now taking this out. Well, they're trying to reduce it in a number of months, but in a lot of cases they can't. So if you're stuck somewhere in the middle and you're trying to pay down a very expensive $100,000, $120,000, $30,000, $140,000 SUV, and you're trying to do it in 3 or 4 years, you're going to be stuck with those, close to $2,000 a month payments. And did you also realize about 15% of the car loans now are exceeding $1,000 a month payments? So people are definitely in debt up their eyeballs, way beyond what they should be. And quite frankly, remember the 25, and remember the 24-10 rule, 20% down minimum, maximum 4 years. And of course, you don't want to exceed 10% of your gross monthly income on a car payment. So I definitely hope that helps. And you definitely want to check out that video right there. GM can't sell their trucks. Why? Well, it could be quality. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.